Because of the incredible fossil record, we were able to obtain very precise radiocarbon dates. And what we were shocked to discover was that right about 13,000 years ago, every single one of our large mammal species, with the exception of coyotes, disappear from our record. Brea Tar Pits has been described as a death trap, and that's probably a pretty accurate description of how our site formed. The La Brea Tar Pits in Los Angeles, California is the richest Ice Age fossil site in the world and has more direwolves than have been discovered anywhere else on Earth. Our site is known for an overabundance of carnivores. If you think of a normal ecosystem, something like the African savanna, where you have a lot of large mammals and just lots and lots of herbivores on the landscape, and then you have a smaller number of carnivores, you basically have this food pyramid. You have lots of plants, a smaller number of herbivores eating those plants because energy gets lost along each step of the trophic pyramid, and then a small number of carnivores at the top. At La Brea, the record is inverse.
Right now we are sitting in the collections area of the La Brea Tar Pits and Museum. I'm surrounded right now by bones. The La Brea Tar Pits are probably the best place in the world to learn about direwolves because there's a lot of direwolf fossils here. 4,000 direwolf fossils have been found here over the last century or so of excavation, giving us an idea of how they may have varied across populations and also across time, because this is a record that spans the last 55,000 years, from that time on to when they went extinct at the end of last ice age about 13,000 years ago. Dire wolves were these large dog-like animals. They were bigger than gray wolves today, which makes sense because the prey animals that dire wolves used to live with were bigger. One misconception is the one that we held for 100 years, that dire wolves were evolutionary sisters to the gray wolf. But then in 2021, some colleagues came out with a study that showed that dire wolves actually were the last of this ancient and unique lineage. There's an equal chance that they're related to the lineage that produces jackals or the lineage that produces eventually the gray wolf.
Can we talk about the fur?
Oh, yes. Okay, what about the fur?
Do we know what colors they were?
No. We have our ideas. Direwolves did range widely across the Americas, not just the American Southwest, where animals tend to be reddish or brownish. And in those areas that would have gotten more snow and ice, it's plausible that some direwolves would have been white.
We have way more carnivores than herbivores, and we think that's because the situation here played out something like this. During the Pleistocene, it was cooler and wetter here. Mixed forest/open savanna with streams covering and disguising the asphalt seeps underneath.
The reason that California is special for tar pits is because of oil. With the earthquakes that occur here, so we have lots of faults that run through this area that can open up the area of the reservoirs, and then the deposition on top squeezes down on it and pushes it to the surface. So here in pit 10, where it's still gooey and still coming up, you can see how sticky this material is. This is a great way to showcase how dangerous this would have been for all different types of wolves and other organisms.
Now, if you walk through our park after a rainstorm, what you see is that the asphalt seeps are completely disguised under the water. A horse or a camel or a ground sloth is thirsty. Under those few inches of water, there's several inches of liquid, sticky asphalt. Maybe it struggles, maybe it cries out. A predator walking by would see this as an easy meal. And in doing this, a number of the dire wolves from the pack would have ended up getting stuck too.
Over decades and then over tens of thousands of years, the stuck dire wolf would then have had its soft tissues decayed away, leaving only its bones preserved in the asphalt.
If multiple animals got trapped, they would have died at the surface, started to rot, decompose, and then sediments would have come and buried their remains afterwards. So welcome to Box 2. This is a part of Project 23, which is a salvage operation that happened because of an underground parking structure. When they dug out that parking structure, they found 16 massive deposits. We're in the main concentration where there's bison, horse, deer, dwarf pronghorns, there's a saber-toothed cat, bobcats, rabbits, rodents, tons of coyotes. It's crammed into one location. There's at least 3 adult dire wolves. We pulled out a complete skull that's now in the laboratory. There's also a partial skull that's being exposed right now, but I think it's going to be the entire thing. It's a very old dog because we can see the canines broken off and heavily worn down.
We have so many individuals that we can do research that's actually analogous to the type of research we do on living animals. So for instance, with dire wolves, we have a huge paleopathology collection, injuries and diseases, and what that might tell us about their lifestyle and their behavior. Let's see what I've got. Ooh, yikes. Oh my God. Yeah, check this out. This is 3 dire wolf foot bones that have actually become sort of arthritic and fused together, trampling injuries that modern wolves get as well. Another thing, individuals would occasionally suffer pretty significant injuries, but nonetheless would go on to live fairly long adult lives, that they probably lived in social groups and had some sort of care system. Right about 13,000 years ago, every single one of our large mammal species disappear from our record. We have a very well-resolved chronology. We're very confident about the timing of this event. We looked at these cores of sediment that were pulled from the bottom of a nearby lake. These sediments preserve things like pollen. They preserve chemicals that tell us about what the climate was like. And importantly, they also preserve charcoal, which is evidence of wildfires.
Los Angeles in the Ice Age, it wasn't snowy, but it was more moist. Starting about 15,000 years ago, you start getting this warming and drying in the environment.
Trees were dying, and at this same time, we see the number of animals getting stuck in our pits start to go down. So the animals were declining, especially herbivores that are associated with more forested areas like camels and ground sloths.
Direwolves were large animals that needed to hunt prey bigger than themselves in order to survive. Preferred prey started disappearing. The energy of finding small things is like us eating potato chips and expecting to live off of that. That doesn't quite work. That results in, today, no more saber-toothed cat or dire wolf.
Now, we also wanted to look at the archaeological record to know if humans were having any influence on the animal populations. The question of how and when humans first got into North America is something that archaeologists have been studying for a very long time, and the story keeps shifting. The earliest human skeleton that's ever been discovered in this part of North America was actually found on the Channel Islands. That skeleton is dated to about 13,000 years old. There's a cave up in Oregon called Paisley Caves that has human coprolites, or fossil poop, that is dated to about 14,500 years old. What we discovered is that about 13,200 years ago, there's this inflection point where human population in North America starts to rise. At 13,200 years ago, here in Southern California, there is a massive outbreak of wildfires. That period of elevated fire lasts for almost 400 years. And at the end of this period, all of the large mammals are gone from our site. The landscape has completely changed to one that is dominated not by juniper and oak trees or grasslands, but by the modern fire-adapted chaparral. And humans are now very common on the North American continent. The extinctions that happened are notable for being very size selective. The biggest thing left during this time period here in Southern California was the coyote. Much smaller. They are omnivores. They're very good at adapting to human-modified contexts. This extinction opened up an opportunity for large animals to take over. Grizzly bears showing up in California around 8,000 years ago. We see moose and elk. Mountain lions had gone completely extinct in North America, but they migrate back in from South America about 10,000 years ago. The gray wolves were also able to move into this landscape and this ecosystem from which they had formerly would have had a lot of competition from dire wolves.
Three wolves were created from gray wolf cells that had their genetic code rewritten. I don't think that we can ever bring back an extinct species. Their genomes are not complete. It is in a vastly different ecosystem. Now, if we think, oh, we can just make these animals, it's just a band-aid. A lot of the species that are endangered today, they are that because of human-induced factors. And I think there's great potential for this technology to be part of a suite of conservation efforts. I look forward to seeing how this could be used in that way.